I want to tell you about someone I once knew so closely, I thought we'd grow old together. Her name was Lola. If you'd met her 5 years ago, you would have seen a girl with fire in her spirit, laughter in her soul, and too many dreams to count. But what you might not have seen, what she hid so well, was the storm that lived inside her. I never thought I'd see her vanish in slow motion, but I did. This is a story about addiction, redemption, and how sometimes the most broken among us are the ones God is holding the tightest. Lola didn't come from a broken home. That's the part that shocked everyone. Her parents were respected professionals. She had siblings who adored her. They lived in a nice neighborhood. But addiction doesn't ask for an invitation. It just walks in. Her trouble started quietly, just like it always does. It began with painkillers after a back injury from sports. She was a sprinter, fast like lightning. She'd twisted her spine at a regional meet. Doctors prescribed something mild at first, then stronger, oxycodone, morphine. She got used to the numbness, and she liked it. She started needing the pills for more than pain. They dulled the ache of being misunderstood, of not being enough, of trying to live up to expectations she didn't ask for. One night, after a track banquet, she asked me, "Have you ever just wanted to sleep and never wake up?" I laughed awkwardly. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. By the time she turned 21, she had moved from pills to powders. Cocaine, then heroin. Yes, heroin. I was there when she collapsed on the bathroom floor at her birthday party. I remember her eyes rolling back, foam at the edge of her lips. People screamed, some ran. One guy took a video on his phone. I knelt down beside her, sobbing, calling her name. "Lola, wake up!" But she was gone. Her breath was shallow, her body limp. She survived that night, but something inside her didn't come back with her. She stopped answering my calls after that. I'd go to her house, her mother always crying, saying, "She won't eat, she won't sleep. She just stares out the window like she's waiting for death to knock." I'll never forget the day she disappeared. She left a note. It read, "I can't keep hurting you all. I'm tired. Please forgive me." For 3 days, we thought she was dead. The police got involved. Her picture was shared all over social media. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every conversation, wondering what signs I'd missed. Then, on the 4th day, we got a call. Lola was found in a gutter behind an old shopping complex, barely breathing. She was thin, her hair matted, eyes sunken, and bruises all over her arms. She'd overdosed. Again. But this time, something was different. After she regained consciousness, she asked for a Bible. Let me say that again. She asked for a Bible. This was Lola, the same girl who used to roll her eyes when I brought up God. She once told me, "If God exists, why did he make painkillers feel better than prayer?" But something broke in her during those 4 days she was missing. She later told me, "I didn't see my life flash before my eyes. I saw yours, my mom's, my little brother's. I saw everyone crying, screaming, and I realized I didn't want to die. I just didn't know how to live anymore." That's when her mother found the Grace Center, a faith-based rehab program run by a local church. It wasn't fancy, just a cluster of brick buildings on the outskirts of town. But what it lacked in glamour, it made up for in God's presence. The first few weeks were hell. She detoxed hard, shaking, vomiting, screaming. There were nights she tried to run, nights she begged the staff to just let her die, but they didn't give up on her. And slowly, she started to breathe again, not just with her lungs, with her soul. She told me about the first time she opened that Bible. It fell open to Isaiah 61:1. "He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners." She broke down crying. That verse wrapped around her like a warm blanket on a cold night. She started journaling prayers, started attending group worship. At first, she sat in the back, arms crossed, skeptical. But week after week, she inched closer to the front. One day, she stood up during a prayer session and said, "I don't want to be numb anymore." The Grace Center didn't just give her a roof over her head. They gave her discipline, structure, faith. She learned how to cook again, how to sleep without pills, how to speak without shouting, how to cry without shame, how to forgive. But perhaps the hardest part? Forgiving herself. I remember visiting her 3 months into the program. She looked different, healthier, stronger, but her eyes still carried the shadow of who she used to be. She said, "I still hear the cravings sometimes. They whisper to me like old friends. But now I whisper back, God is louder." One of the turning points in her recovery was when they asked her to speak to a new intake group. She almost said no. She didn't think anyone would listen. But she stood in front of 10 other girls, some shaking, some high, some silent. and told them her story. Raw, unfiltered. And they cried, they clapped, they believed her. For the first time, she felt like her pain had purpose. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was leading. Months passed, then a year. She graduated the program, walked across a small stage in a white dress, holding a cross in one hand and a certificate in the other. I was there. I cried like a child. She gave a speech that day. I'll never forget what she said. Addiction is a liar. It tells you you're alone, that you're worthless, that you'll never break free. But I'm here to tell you, freedom isn't a fantasy, it's a promise. And God keeps his promises. Now Lola works at the Grace Center. She's a counselor. She's walked dozens of girls through their own valleys of death. She doesn't shame them. She listens. She prays. She weeps with them. She walks with them. She tells them the truth. That healing is not a destination. It's a journey, a choice, every single day. And most importantly, that you can start over, no matter how far gone you think you are. You know, sometimes I sit and think about that night in the bathroom, the collapsed body, the foam, the panic, and I think about the woman she is now, smiling, whole, brave. And I realize that the girl who once danced with death now dances in purpose. I asked her recently if she ever thinks about using again. She smiled and said, "Temptation still knocks, but I've changed the locks. Now, only Jesus holds the key." So why am I telling you this? Because someone out there, maybe it's you, or your friend, or your child, maybe someone is struggling in silence, and they think it's too late. It's not. There is a way out. There is healing. There is hope. And sometimes, hope looks like a broken girl holding a Bible in one hand and a second chance in the other. This story isn't about Lola anymore. It's about you. Are you listening?